Welcome to the Renaissance Spirit.
Salve, dear traveler through time, and thank you for joining me on another exploration of civics, virtue, and the ills of modern-day America. If you haven't watched my other videos yet, please do so. You may also enjoy Tacitus's video, Unmasking Tacitus, the man behind the quill, which discusses some of the points I will touch on today and more. Civics, a noble pursuit. In the days of Rome, civics was not just a word you threw around in polite conversation. It was a lifeblood. It was the air we Romans breathed, the foundation upon which we built our society, and the very thing that separated us from the barbarians who stood at our gates, eager to plunder. Without civics, we were rudderless. The Roman Republic thrived not because we had superior weapons or gods on our side, though admittedly we like to think that, but because we had laws, institutions, and a shared understanding of our obligations to one another, known as res publica, or the civic affairs and engagement. It was ours to safeguard. Now look at America, once hailed as the great experiment in democratic governance, the model for the modern world. And what do I see? I see a people who have forgotten what civics even means. What are laws but mere inconveniences to the rich? What is the public good, if not a term to be sneered at on your talking heads' nightly dramas? Tell me, what republic can thrive if its citizens don't know their own constitution, if they can't even name a single branch of their government? You laugh? Yes, there's your laughter, that grand modern coping mechanism. But the joke, my friends, is on those who do not heed my warnings and my counsel. In my time, you either participated or you were participated upon. There was no room for apathy, but you, the modern world has perfected the art of apathy, haven't you? The silent shrug, the artful eye roll, the defeated sigh. What can one person do, I hear you say? But if you don't know what power you wield as a citizen, if you've never even tried, then you've already surrendered that power. But worry not, I'll leave the most damning truths for later. This is but the start, and I have much more to say about how the grand American apathy mirrors the slow decay of my beloved Roman Republic. Stay with me, for we must now turn to virtue, the spine of any great civilization, and how its loss is the true dagger in the back of your modern world. Virtue. Now there's a word that used to carry weight, not the shallow, hollow thing in modern times, where it's trotted out only to adorn campaign speeches or sermonize on social media. No, in Rome, virtue was not a set of platitudes. It was action, discipline, and moral courage. Virtus, as we called it, was a man's measure, a woman's too, for we did not limit greatness by gender, though we might not have always said it aloud. Virtue guided both public and private life. It was the moral glue that held together the Via Romana, the Roman way. Oh, how we revered our virtues. Gravitas, that sense of seriousness and purpose. Pietas, duty to the gods, the state, and family. Dignitas, personal honor, and fides, trustworthiness. These were not lofty ideals to aspire to once in a while, but expectations, norms ingrained into every Roman. To lack virtue was to lack worth. Even those of us who sometimes stumbled, yes, I had my moments, knew that the maintenance of these principles was what kept the Republic from crumbling into the hands of those who would tear it apart for their own gain. And today, what are your virtues? I must confess, I've observed with something bordering on horror the modern exaltation of greed, shameless ambition, and personal gain above all. It's as if the Roman way has been flipped on its head, with your society now worshipping the very vices we sought to suppress. You call it success, when a man of great wealth openly mocks the rule of law. You applaud leaders who dismiss the value of empathy, of honor, as though these were weaknesses. You celebrate ruthlessness, the kind that would have had a man like Caligula nodding approvingly from his throne of madness. And yet, you wonder why your society feels as if it's on the brink. How long can a civilization endure when its people disdain virtue, when its leaders are chosen not for their fides or their dignitas, but for their willingness to trample the common good for personal glory? I suppose it's no surprise, then, that you see the rise of strongmen and demagogues, men who mirror the worst of Rome's despotic emperors. You say you value freedom, but in abandoning virtue, you've handed the reins of power to those who value nothing but their own reflection in the mirror. Can you think of some of your modern-day politicians for which I speak? But I digress. You may not see the connections just yet between the loss of virtue and the rise of authoritarianism, between your apathy and the decay of democracy, but I assure you, we are merely on the second step of our journey. You'll see, in time, how this all comes together, how the very same issues that brought Rome to her knees now creep into the veins of your modern world. Hold fast, for in the next breath, we must confront the specter of authoritarianism in your own time and the alarming rise of tyranny in the guise of nationalism and faith. Stay with me, the darkest revelations are yet to come. You see, this isn't just about ancient history or dusty lessons from a forgotten age. The warnings I give are alive and clawing at your present. Look around you. What do you see? I'll tell you what I see. Authoritarianism, tyranny, nationalism cloaked in religion, creeping ever closer. The abandonment of civic duty and virtue hasn't just left a vacuum, it has left the door wide open for the worst of your kind to step in. In the defense of those who want to make the world a better place, I understand your dilemma. Most of you have neither the time or the resources to fully engage in your own society, let alone with the outside world. But that too, my friend, is a choice of political will. You need to stand up for your rights, demand more, and have more free time like the citizens of many countries have. Most of you who work don't get any more than a week or two off a year. In some other countries, they get a month off. Full pensions, full healthcare, free or reduced post-secondary education. Maybe you don't know what you're missing, but I digress. You ask how we Romans allowed Caesar to rise to power, how a man, no, a demigod in his own mind, tore the Republic apart. I laugh, but it's a hollow laugh, one tinged with irony, because I look at modern America, and I see it happening all over again. Although Donald Trump, the Donald, as he prefers to be known, is not the cunning or intelligent man that Julius Caesar was. Tyranny starts slowly, then all at once. You think your checks and balances, your electoral processes, your courts will protect you forever? The same complacency that crippled the Senate of Rome now cripples you. Aut Caesar, aut nihil, either Caesar or nothing, was not just his creed, it was a harbinger of things to come. He represented the end of democracy and the birth of tyranny. And yet you seem so blind to the parallels that stare you right in the face. America has abandoned the Via Romana. Many in America no longer care for duty, honor, and civics. And so you've allowed the rise of figures who mock these very values. You've surrendered your freedoms to authoritarians who offer you scapegoats in place of solutions, who clothe their fascist impulses in the language of patriotism and faith. Sound familiar? It should, for we Romans were duped by the same empty promises. We too were sold a lie, a strong man who promised to restore Rome's greatness, while dismantling everything that made her great in the first place. But oh, how much worse it is now, how much more insidious. You've wrapped your nationalism in the flag of religion, calling it Christian nationalism, as though Christ himself would endorse the oppression of the marginalized, the rule of the sword over the rule of law. Religion used to justify tyranny is an old trick, one we knew well, but one I'd hoped your enlightened age would see through. And yet here we are. Do you think this is just America's problem? No, my friends, this plague has spread across the globe. Hungary, Germany, France, Britain, nations that once stood for freedom and democracy, now teeter on the edge of authoritarianism. And Canada, Australia, do not think yourselves immune. This cancer of extremism, this rejection of equality and liberty, knows no borders. Tyrants are opportunists, and they thrive when civics, virtue, and reason lie in tatters. If you don't recognize it now, you will when it's too late. Do you not see the signs? The history you've neglected is repeating itself in ways both subtle and obvious. When you elevate leaders who disdain democracy, when you turn a blind eye to the erosion of your rights because you're too tired, too busy, too hopeless to care, you are following in the footsteps of the Roman people who cheered as the Republic crumbled. The final reckoning approaches, and in our last chapter, I will show you how, unless you change course, the very values that could save you, equality, freedom, liberty, democracy, will be drowned in the rising tide of extremism. Stay with me, for the worst is yet to be told, and you must hear it before it's too late. Here we are, on the precipice of what I hoped would never come to pass again in history, yet you stand on the very edge, staring into the abyss. You think democracy is invincible, that freedom and liberty are self-perpetuating forces, forever renewing themselves. But take it from a man who watched his own republic die. Nothing is inevitable except decline if it is not fiercely defended. Let's talk about equality, freedom, and liberty, words that are tossed about with such careless abandon today. Once, these words meant something. Once, they were the foundation of the Roman Republic, and I must admit, we failed them more than we succeeded. But even in failure, we tried to live up to their promise. Now, I look at your world, and I see the same principles teetering on the brink of collapse. Across the globe, the far-right extremists are gathering like vultures, waiting for the corpse of democracy to give its last shudder. You talk of freedom as if it were a magic word, yet I see a society where freedom is rapidly being redefined by those who would curtail it. Equality, it has become a bitterly divisive term in a world where privilege clings desperately to power, disguising oppression as a fight for traditional values. Do you not see that when you deny liberty to others, when you exclude the poor, the marginalized, the different, you deny it to yourselves as well? Tyrants rise not by offering real solutions, but by pitting you against one another, and you have fallen for it, hook, line, and sinker. Look to your own leaders, the ones who denigrate anyone who thinks with reason and empathy. Sound familiar? We Romans saw this too, when men of ambition claimed divine mandate to seize power, leaving the people divided, conquered by their own ignorance. But you, with your vast knowledge and instant access to information, what excuse do you have? The trials and tribulations you face are as old as time itself. Tyranny, division, inequality, the erosion of civics. These are not new problems, but your failure to heed history's lessons is damning. And so I ask you, with no small amount of desperation, where is your Renaissance spirit? Yes, that spark of inquiry, knowledge, reason, and compassion that fueled the Enlightenment, that dragged the world from darkness into light. Where is it now? when the shadows of ignorance and fear are closing in, you must ask yourselves, will you let your betters, your so-called elites, those who stand to gain from your disinterest and disengagement, dictate your future? Or will you reclaim your role as citizens of the world, as stewards of democracy, of liberty, of reason? This is why civics matters. This is why virtue is not a quaint notion of the past. And this is why you must be engaged with the news, with politics, with your domestic and international affairs. History is not a story written and closed. It is an ongoing narrative, and you are living through one of its most pivotal chapters. The decisions you make today will ripple through centuries to come, just as the decisions we made in Rome still echo in your modern world. Remember, dear traveler, we are 99.9% the same in our DNA, across time, culture, and geography. We have the same hopes, the same fears, the same struggles. And history's greatest lesson? Those who fail to engage, who sit back and let others decide for them, end up living under the rule of those who have no interest in equality, freedom, or democracy. And so, I leave you with this. Vive Renaissance Spiritus. The Renaissance spirit is not just a YouTube channel, it's a social movement, a call to action for those who dream of a better world and have the courage to create it. We are dedicated to the pursuit of a just, equitable, and humanitarian world. We explore history, politics, religion, personal development, culture, and social and environmental justice because these topics matter. Ancient Rome and the Roman Empire offer lessons for today. If you are a modern polymath, the Renaissance spirit is for you. The Renaissance gave birth to the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason, but we are far from finished. We must continue to embrace truth, knowledge, and understanding, not just for ourselves, but for the betterment of all humanity. This is not just philosophy. It is a way of living, learning, growing, and thinking. If you believe in these things, then join us. Subscribe, share, engage. Let history be your guide, not your tombstone. Thank you for watching. Vive Renaissance Spiritus, for democracy, liberty, and the shared future we all deserve.